Hello, this is Laura Gilbert of Mrs. Gilbert's Tips, here with my goal for this channel, which is to help you reduce the stress and craziness that comes with parenting young children. The technique I'm going to talk about today is called Same Boat. It is for siblings, and I got it from this book, Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson. I learned about her when I was doing research on classroom management for my master's paper, and a lot of the research I did for my paper was based on the class meetings. She talks about family meetings, which I am trying to integrate into our household. But in one little section of the book, she talks about siblings and sibling rivalry, and anybody with more than one child knows how they love to get on each other's nerves. That's just fun for them. And I was seeing it and it was exhausting because who was wrong? Who started it? How did they start it? Who was more wrong? Who was being more rough? And who needed the consequence? And if you spend your entire day trying to figure out who started it and who was wrong, and it's exhausting. So this tip has probably reduced my kids' fighting by about 80%. They're 21 months apart, and I probably started using this tip 2 years ago. And it went down, the fighting went down by 80%. It was crazy, the difference that I saw almost overnight when I started with this one amazing tip from this book. So I will explain it now. It's called Same Boat, and basically the parent's goal when the kids argue is to stay out of it, because the kids' goal in their arguing is to involve you. Does this sound familiar? Younger sibling bugs older sibling loses it, smacks younger sibling starts screaming very loud, even when they may be mostly fine, and to get the older sibling in trouble, because the younger sibling has learned, oh, I have a lot of control here. I can get mom to come in and punish my big brother or my big sister just by doing these things. And the problem is it teaches them how to play the victim and whine and cry and get their way, and also cause their sibling to get in trouble when it was probably not their sibling's fault. And it makes you crazy as the parent. So this technique is called putting them in the same boat, and I'm going to read you the example from this Positive Discipline book that was very helpful to me. So do not take sides or try to decide who is at fault. Mrs. Hamilton noticed 2-year-old Marilyn hitting 8-month-old Sally. Mrs. Hamilton felt that Sally had not done anything to provoke Marilyn, but she still put them both in the same boat. First, she picked baby Sally up, put her in her crib, and said, "We'll come to get you when you're ready to stop fighting." Then she took Marilyn to her room and said, "Come out when you're ready to stop fighting, and we'll go get the baby." At first glance, this looks ridiculous. Why put the baby in his crib for fighting, or her crib for fighting, when she was just sitting there innocently and doesn't understand mom's admonition anyway? Many people guess that the purpose of treating them both the same is for the benefit of the older child, to avoid always feeling at fault. Actually, treating them the same benefits both children. We can't know for sure if Sally provoked Marilyn, and we don't want to be unfair in our consequencing of our children, of course. So I thought this was crazy. She was 8 months old. Obviously, the older sibling is at fault. And that's why it affected me so much when I started thinking about my own kids, who neither of which were 8 months old. They were 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, whatever. So using the technique from 1, 2, 3 Magic, which I covered in a different video, but essentially is, that's 1, when there's a misbehavior, that's 2, when it continues, and that's 3, time out. I just transferred it to this technique, putting them in the same boat when they started getting riled up and crying and smacking each other and going crazy for my benefit, because they wanted the other one to get in trouble, most likely. Obviously, if your children are really hurting each other, this is different than the type of squabbling I'm talking about, which rules our day. So they're fighting on the floor and I'm trying to cook dinner and I'm annoyed, and my job is not to navigate and be the peacekeeper for them. So I just said, that's one for not getting along. And then a few minutes later, it continued, and I said, that's two for not getting along. And then that's three, timeout. And they both go to timeout. And neither one of them wants to go to timeout because they just want to keep playing. That's what kids like to do. They want to be where they are and do what they're doing. And as soon as you interrupt that with a timeout, then you've come in with an effective consequence, because now they're not doing what they're doing and they are no longer where they are, and they're inconvenienced by having to move themselves to a new location, find a new activity to do, even if it's playing in their room or looking at books, whatever it is. The rivalry, the fighting stopped, and that is the important part for your sanity as a mother, and for them to know, oh, well, I'm not getting my sibling in trouble. I am going to my room too. And then I watched such interesting things happen after instituting this. My older daughter, who is by nature more of a peacekeeper, she's very sweet. They'll start fighting and I'll say, that's one for not getting along. And she'll put her arm over her brother. Oh, Nathan, why don't we go over here and play together? And then Nathan is like, what's going on? But he's happy too that she's happy, and then they move on and play. And oh my goodness, they almost never get timeouts for fighting anymore, because they know that they will both be consequenced. I will not try to figure out who was right. I will not blame who started what. And it's an amazing difference. So that's it. If you need more explanation of 1, 2, 3 magic, that's another video, also quite short. And as always, I say, as if I've said this before, this is my first time saying it as I do more research. Please subscribe and leave any questions in the comments. I am happy to give my best response to any of your questions. My goal is to keep the videos short, so I'm trying to not drone on and on and on and on about every single eventuality, but I'm very happy to try to answer any questions and keep making videos. So thanks.